All right, welcome. If you're getting ready for the NISM Series X exam, or hey, maybe you just want to finally get a handle on one of the biggest parts of modern finance, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to demystify derivatives. Now, I know they can seem super complex, but stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll have a really solid, clear foundation. Let's jump in.
So here's what we've got on tap today. We're going to start with the big one. What on earth is a derivative? From there, we'll dig into the core ideas that make them tick. Then, we'll open up the financial toolbox and look at the four main products, see where they're traded, and wrap it all up by looking at the awesome benefits versus the very real risks. Sound good? Let's get to it.
Okay, first things first, before we can even think about using these financial tools, we have to know exactly what we're talking about. This foundation is, well, it's everything. So let's make sure this definition is crystal clear.
So the most important clue is right there in the name, derive. A derivative's value is derived from something else. The easiest way to think about it is like this. The price of a bottle of orange juice totally depends on the price of oranges, right? In this case, the juice is the derivative, and the oranges are what we call the underlying asset. And that underlying asset can be almost anything: stocks, bonds, gold, crude oil, you name it. And it's really important to get this. These aren't some informal backroom bets. Nope. In India, derivatives are legally defined as securities. They're governed by the Securities Contracts Regulation Act, or the SCRA. This is the legal rulebook that makes sure all the trading is structured, fair, and transparent. It brings order to the whole market. All right, we've got the definition down. Now, let's pop the hood and see how this engine actually runs. We're getting into the core concepts now, the mechanics that make derivatives work, and we're starting with a really fundamental idea. You know, this is such a fascinating concept. In a derivatives contract, for every single winner, there has to be a loser. Think about it. If you buy a gold futures contract because you think the price is going to shoot up, and I'm the one who sells it to you because I think it's going to fall, well, if that price goes up by 100 rupees, you've made exactly 100 rupees. And guess what? I've lost exactly 100 rupees. The net change between the two of us, zero. It's a direct transfer of money based on which way the price moves. So you might be thinking, okay, if it's a zero-sum game, how do you make sure the person who loses can actually pay up? And that is where margin comes in. Margin is basically a good faith deposit. It's collateral that you have to put up before you can even place a trade. This is the whole system's safety net, and it's absolutely crucial for making sure everyone can cover their commitments. It prevents one person's default from starting a dangerous domino effect. Now, here's a term people often get mixed up with trading volume. Don't. Volume is just how many contracts were traded today. Open interest, on the other hand, tells you how many contracts are still active, how many positions are still open and haven't been closed out yet. So if you see prices rising and open interest is also rising, that tells you that new money is flowing into the market. It signals a lot of conviction behind that trend. It's a really powerful way to read what the market is thinking. Okay, now we get to the really fun part. Let's open up the financial toolbox and look at the four main types of derivative products. Seriously, think of them just like that. 4 different tools, and each one is designed for a very specific job. First up, we've got forwards and futures. Now, at their core, they do the same thing. They're both agreements to buy or sell something at a future date for a price you lock in today. But, as you can see, how they're structured is a world of difference. Forwards are these private, customized deals between two parties. The big problem? High counterparty risk. What if the other guy just decides not to pay up? Well, futures were literally invented to solve that problem. They are standardized, they trade on a public exchange, and they're guaranteed by a clearinghouse, which basically gets rid of that counterparty risk and makes them super easy to buy and sell. Next up, options. And this is where we get to that brilliant idea of having the right, but not the obligation. A call option gives you the right to buy an asset at a set price. So you'd want to call if you think the price is going up. A put option gives you the right to sell an asset at a set price. You'd want to put if you think the price is going down. That word right is everything. You don't have to follow through. If you're wrong, you can just walk away, and all you've lost is the small fee you paid for the option itself. And finally, we have swaps. Okay, just follow me through this example. Imagine a company has a big loan, but the interest rate on it fluctuates all over the place. That's risky. They want some stability. So they can enter into what's called an interest rate swap. They agree to pay a nice, predictable, fixed interest rate to a swap dealer. In return, the dealer agrees to pay the company's unpredictable floating rate for them. What happens? Those floating rate payments basically cancel each other out, and what's the company left with? A simple, stable, fixed rate payment. It's an incredibly powerful way to manage risk. So we know what derivatives are, we've looked at the main types, but where do they actually trade? And maybe more importantly, why do people even use them? Let's dive into the purpose behind these products.
So there are really two main arenas for derivative trading. First, you have the over-the-counter or OTC market. This is where those custom-built forwards and swaps live. It's not one single place, it's more like a network of dealers. Then you have the exchange-traded markets, like the NSE or BSE. This is where standardized futures and options are traded. And the real game changer here is the clearinghouse. It's an organization that guarantees every single trade. It becomes the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer. It's a brilliant mechanism that just about eliminates the risk of anyone defaulting on their trade.
So why do people go through all this trouble? Well, it really boils down to three main reasons. First is hedging. This is all about managing risk. Think of a farmer using futures to lock in a good price for his wheat crop before he even harvests it. That's hedging. Second is speculation. This is about taking on risk in the hopes of making a profit, basically betting that a stock's price is going to go up or down. And third is arbitrage. This is the really clever one. It's about finding tiny, fleeting price differences between two markets and exploiting them to lock in a completely risk-free profit.
Okay, let's make this a little more real. We're going to dive into a core strategy now, something every professional needs to understand: how these products are priced and how that pricing itself creates some really interesting opportunities.
The basic formula for pricing a futures contract is actually pretty simple. It's the spot price, that's the price for buying something right now, plus something called the cost of carry. So what's that? It's just the cost of holding on to the asset until the future delivery date. So for a stock, that's mainly the interest you'd have to pay on the money you use to buy it. For something physical, like gold, it could also include the costs of storage and insurance.
Now, things get really interesting when this formula gets out of whack. Just look at this example. The futures price is way higher than it should be compared to the spot price plus the carry costs. This creates what we call an arbitrage opportunity. A smart trader can, at the exact same time, buy the stock in the cash market for 3,984 rupees and sell the futures contract for 4,032. By doing both at once, they have locked in a guaranteed totally risk-free profit of 48 rupees. That is arbitrage. And you know what? It's the actions of these arbitrageurs that snap these prices back in line and keep the whole market efficient.
Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. Derivatives are clearly very powerful tools, but, like any powerful tool, they come with some major benefits and some very serious risks. So let's lay them all out and get a balanced final verdict. The upsides, they're huge. Like we saw with hedging and swaps, they give people and companies amazing tools for managing risk. And because they attract all kinds of participants, from hedgers to speculators, they create tons of liquidity in the market, which actually helps lower trading costs for everybody. And, as we just saw with arbitrage, they're essential for making sure prices are fair and efficient.
But, and this is a big but, you absolutely have to respect the risks. Counterparty risk is that danger that the person on the other side of your deal just won't pay up, and that's a real concern in those OTC markets. Price risk is the obvious one. You could just be flat out wrong about which way the market is headed. And liquidity risk is that nightmare scenario where you're stuck in a position and you just can't get out of it. These are incredibly powerful instruments, and they demand careful management.
So I guess that brings us to the big final question. Are derivatives just complex toys for high-stakes gambling? Or are they absolutely essential tools for managing risk in our modern economy? The truth is, as we've seen today, they're both. Their ultimate impact really depends on the skill and the intention of the person using them. It's something to think about as you continue on your journey. Thanks so much for watching,